All right, I'm going to go through this test review real quick. So for the first part, you're going to want to do synthetic division. So I put in a 0 and a 1 and a -3 and a -3 and a -4. Go through and work it out. My numbers are good. I'm going to say no on that one. All right, and you can go and graph them and see if it's a root. It's kind of not always clear, so this is a real concrete way of doing this. All right, let's check 4. Okay, so that means yes. You have a remainder of 0, that means yes. All right, one more, and check -2. All right, so you have a number, so that means no. So only number 2 is a yes, okay? So let's go and look at the next part. Now I took out some of these directions on yours. So you did not need to find the discriminant, okay, and determine the nature of the roots. You're going to know the nature of the roots just by finding the solution, okay? So let's plug this into the quadratic formula. That's actually x is equal to that. So we're going to say, well, a is 2, b is -7, and c is -4. Plug that in. I'm going to go ahead and set it up. The part that we usually struggle with is the discriminant, and so we are going to go and calculate that first. So check to see if yours is working out the same as mine. All right, that should be 32. All right, 49 and 32 is going to give me what, 81? All right, so then you take that and you go plug that into the rest of the quadratic formula. So let me scroll down here and see if I can get this to work. Okay, so we've got the opposite of b, 7, plus or minus square root of 81. Oh, it's a perfect square. How nice. All right, all over 2a, so 2 times 2 is 4. Let's just write it 4. Okay, so now you've got 7 plus 9 all over 4. That's going to give you 16 over 4, which is 4. That's one of your answers. And then you've got 7 minus 9 all over 4. So that's -2 over 4, which is -1/2. So your solutions are going to be x equals 4 and x equals -1/2. All right, let's go on and check the next one. I'm going to clean up my screen a little bit before I move on. All right, so I'm finding the discriminant of number 5. So that's basically, again, you're going to just multiply 1, and then you're going to be minus, I think that's 200. Okay, so that's going to be equal to -199. All right, we know we're going to have a negative under a square root, so we're going to have imaginary roots. So let's go throw that into the quadratic formula. So we've got the opposite of b is 1 plus or minus the square root of -199. And then all over 2a, 2 times 5 is 10. All right, I'm not sure if anything goes into -199. Let me check. All right, so I don't think anything goes in, so we're just going to pull an I out of there. So it's really going to be 1 plus or minus I square root of 199 all over 10. None of this can be simplified. All right, let's go on to the next one. All right, we want to know if this is going to be a factor. Now, you can graph it and look for the 0, and then you got to remember to change the sign. Or you can go ahead and put the 0 in here now, and then just verify it for real. Now, if I give you directions to use the remainder theorem, you have to use the remainder theorem. So we're going to use that. It's basically synthetic division. And then we just go and divide. I hope I did this right. Let me check here real quick. Looks right. I'm feeling like it should be positive. Yep, I'm wrong. I had to change the sign. I knew something was wrong. So go and change your sign from your root to your factor, or from your factor to your root. Now it's going to go better for us. All right, -3, and then we get a 6, and then we get a -4, and that's going to turn into a +8 and a 0. And yes, it is a factor. Okay, so because you got a 0, you got a yes. All right, you could go and finish factoring this out, because this turns into x squared minus 3x minus 4. Go ahead and practice factoring that, because you will have to do that later on in the worksheet or the review. All right, let's go ahead and try this next one. Again, we're going to change the sign like I didn't do the last time. And now, remember, you don't have an x cubed, so put in a 0. And you don't have an x, so put in a 0. And then we just go through and do synthetic division. Okay, so obviously that's a factor. So our next factor would be 1 less than our starting one, so x cubed plus 3x minus, 3x squared minus x minus 3. Now, if we knew, if you could graph this, you could go find another factor of that, and then you could use synthetic division again. You could find another 0, use synthetic division again and factor it again. All right, let's go on down and look at the answers here. Okay, number 9. Number 9 is not very nice, but I just want to tell you that right now. It kind of goes like this, I think, and then it comes down, and then it comes back. And the only, no, you have a 4th degree, so you know you're going to have 4 roots. Well, it only crosses the x-axis 3 times. So here's a little known, probably forgotten thing about this kind of root right here. When it sits on the axis, see how it's sitting here? It's just kind of hanging out. It didn't go through it. You've got a double root. So this number is -3/2. So it's there twice. Okay, I'm just going to be honest with you. That's not even going to be on the test. I don't want you to get stressed about number 9, because we're not going to worry about 4th degrees too much. It does get a little bit tricky with the synthetic division, and then it gets even trickier with the factoring. So I'm not going to worry about it right now, especially the day before a test. So let's just not worry about it. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this one. Now, let's graph this first one. You're going to do y equals, put this in your calculator and look for your roots. Okay, this one's too easy because it goes through -1, and it goes through +1, and it goes through +2. So that's a little bit too easy, but those are your answers. Here's what you're probably going to have to do. I would rather you get used to finding one real root and practice using the quadratic formula to find the others. Because what if these were imaginary? You wouldn't know what to do because it's not going to show up on a graph. So when you get something like this where you only see one of the answers, you put the -1 in here, and then we go and do the synthetic division. So I'm going to work that out real quick. I'm going to pause. Okay, so in this case, when I did my synthetic division, I got x squared minus 3x plus 2. Now, from here, if it cannot be factored, you could go and use the quadratic formula. Okay, now you've practiced the quadratic formula already, so I'm not going to put you through it again. But in the case when you get the roots that you can't see them all, the quadratic formula helps you. All right, so let's go down here and find, now I didn't give you all these directions to do either because we didn't learn Descartes' law of signs because it's a stupid rule. All right, so determine the rational zeros. Again, go ahead and graph it. Honestly, it is just going to show up on a graph, but try to find one. Okay, so again, it went through these nice little integer roots here, okay? So if in case it doesn't go through the integer roots, just use the integer root, like let's say -4, plug it in to find your other roots, and then get it down to a quadratic, and then you could use the quadratic formula. But for now, x equals -4, x equals -2, and x equals 7. All right, let's go on to the back side of the paper. All right, solve each equation or inequality. I think on your paper, one of these is an inequality. I got to go change it because it wasn't like that before. All right, here we go. So we're going to go ahead and solve this. Now, here's another thing you can do. You can just multiply everything by n to get the n out of the denominator. So let's try doing that. You get n squared minus 6 plus 5n is equal to 0. There you go. So that might be an easier way to do it. If you only have one thing in the denominator, just go ahead and do that. Now, you're going to go ahead and factor this. So you're going to have n squared plus 5n plus 6. Okay, so you need factors of 6 that add up to 5. Obviously, that's going to be 2 and 3. Okay, so n is going to be equal to -2, and n is equal to -3. All right, let's go set that up because now that's an equation. You don't have to do anything with that. You're done. Just make sure that whatever's going on down here is not happening down here, and it's not. So you're not allowed to have n equals 0, so it's all good. All right, let's go ahead and try one that is an inequality because we have to approach that just a little bit differently at the end. So we've got 1 over x equals that, The common denominator is going to be 2x squared. And we're going to go ahead and make this a 2x. I think that's right. Yeah, 2x times 2x. And then this is going to give us, we don't have to do anything with this one. Okay, good. All right, so now you're going to go and drop your denominator. 2x is less than or equal to x plus 3. So now you've got x is less than or equal to 3. All right, so x is less than or equal to 3 is your solution, you think. So let's go and make sure that we check our domain. So the domain cannot be 0. The denominator cannot be 0, so x cannot be 0. Go ahead and make your number line. Let's just check just to be sure. All right, pick some numbers. I'm going to pick -1, 1, and 4. Let's throw some of those numbers in there. So we've got 1 over -1. I'm going to do that. I'm going to pause this because I'm going to run out of time. So with the first one, it does work. -1 is less than or equal to 2. So we're going to go ahead with that. Go ahead and plug in 1 now and see what you get for that. Okay, I made a mistake on the last one because I'm rushing through it right now, but so it still worked out, but it was just not going to be a 2. It was actually a 1. So it worked out. The second interval works also. So now let's go and plug in a 4. Okay, so we get 1/4 is less than or equal to 7 over 32. All right, if you go, you can turn them into decimals, no big deal. All right, but this is an 8 over 32. Is not possibly less than 7 over 32, so that doesn't work either, okay? So our answer is going to have to be just what we got to start with. X is less than or equal to 3, and x cannot equal 0. All right, I'm going to do the last two in another video because I'm running out of time on this one. I only get 15 minutes. So let me go and upload this, and then I'll make a new one for you.